Okay, so I'm giving my presentation on equal temperament and just intonation and why we use equal temperament today. So different temperaments are different systems of tuning. There are the different ways that we can split up the frequencies in an octave to get the different notes. The two most popular ones are just intonation and equal temperament. In Western music today, we use equal temperament tuning, but both of them have their issues, and one isn't necessarily better than the other. Equal temperament was created around 1639 by a mathematician named Marine Mersenne, and just intonation has just kind of been around forever because it occurs naturally. So if we get into specifics, just intonation is based off of the overtone series. And so every note in just intonation is comes from the overtone series. So over here we can see the overtone series represented in waves. And so if we take a pitch and make it the fundamental frequency, meaning the tonic or the first note of the scale, we can figure out the other notes in just intonation based off of this. So if we make the fundamental frequency A, which is 440 hertz, and we want to figure out the octave above A, we can use these ratios over here to figure out the waves and the frequency of the different notes in just intonation. So if we want the octave, which is the first overtone, we know that has a ratio of 2 to 1, so we can multiply 440 hertz by 2 and figure out that the octave above A4, which is A5, is 880 hertz. And if we want a different example, if we want to find the fifth above A, which is E, E5, that's the second overtone, and a fifth has a ratio of 3 to 2, so we can multiply 440 hertz times the ratio 3 over 2, and find that E in the key of A in just intonation has 660 hertz. And so, because just intonation is based off of the overtone series, it's the most in tune of the different systems of tunings. It's how the notes occur in nature because it's how they are in the overtone series. The biggest problem with just intonation, though, is that you can't change keys without sounding out of tune. Because in just intonation, you make the fundamental frequency the tonic. When you change the tonic, all the frequencies of the different notes change. So for example, if we're in the key of C major, and we want the note D, which is 294.33 hertz, and we later switch to the key of A minor, which has the same notes as C major, but we want to play a D, that D is going to be 293.33 hertz, an entire 1 hertz off what it is in C major. So if I was playing a piano concerto that started in C major and later switched to A minor, I would have to retune the entire piano to have it in tune with just intonation halfway through the piece. And so, as perfect as just intonation sounds, it's impractical because we have to change keys every time, or change tuning every time we want to change keys. And so because of this, we use equal temperament. And so equal temperament equally spaces the 12 notes in an octave. It does this by, for each half step, it multiplies by the 12th root of 2. So for example, if I have the note C right here, and I want to find the octave above C, I would multiply the 12th root of 2 for each half step. So every half step would be the 12th root of 2. And so the 12th root of 2 is so important because if you take the 12th root of 2 and do it 12 times, 1 for each half step, that would be the 12th root of 2 squared, which is just going to be 2. So in equal temperament, the octave is always perfectly double the frequency. So, for example, if we have A and we want the octave above A is 440 hertz, and so we would multiply by the 12th root of 2 12 times, and that would be 880 hertz. And so, for a different example, if we know the frequency of A, right here, 440 hertz, and we want to find B, right here, we would multiply by the 12th root of 2 twice, 1 for each half step, and that will give us the frequency of B. Although we can use equal temperament to change keys better than just intonation, there's still issues with equal temperament. So the biggest issue with equal temperament is that it's never perfectly in tune. So it's close enough to the overtone series and just intonation that it sounds in tune most of the time, but not always. It's how all modern instruments are tuned, because for like the human ear, most of the time, close enough is good enough, but not always. And as musicians, we're trained to adjust for this like close enough. So, like if we see here, in just intonation, B is 495 hertz, but in equal temperament, B is going to be 493.8 hertz. And this is close enough to where you don't hear that much of a difference, but if you get really picky, you can tell the difference between the two. But as musicians, we do adjust for this. Instrumentalists, especially wind instrumentalists, go back and forth without knowing it between just intonation and equal temperament. So though like a piano is completely tuned in equal temperament and you can't change the tuning of it like on the fly, a lot of instruments can change their tuning really quickly with a change of embouchure, or like a vocalist maybe like changing the pitch they're singing at slightly. And so when you tune chords across an ensemble, you adjust your pitch accordingly so the chord sounds most like how it is in the overtone series, which is what just intonation is based off of. So if we're playing in an ensemble and we're spelling an A chord, if I have the fifth, E, and we're in equal temperament, it's just a little off, so we would have to adjust this pitch up so it sounds in tune with the overtone series. And so hopefully with this, you're able to understand why as musicians we have to listen in to the others playing around us. Even though our individual note can be in tune with equal temperament, we still have to adjust to just intonation to make it sound perfectly in tune. Because as musicians, we know that like close enough just isn't good enough for us.